It's 6:30. Good evening, class. Confirm if you can hear me.
Well,
yes, we can hear you.
Okay. This class is built for 6:30. You're welcome to class, students and team. Today's class is on judiciary and its impact on governance. So as you log in to the class, ensure that you write your names on the chat box, your names and your political party. And if there are any questions in the chat box, so that once the facilitator finish delivering the lectures, we can take the questions, pick them one after another. Thank you. So I'll go ahead now to read the profile of the facilitator taking the class for today. Our facilitator for today's class is Sheyi Bella. Sheyi Bella is a PhD candidate on the intersection of law, governance, and technology, an international corporate and technology legal expert who holds an LLB, an LLM from the University of Buckingham, and an MSc in Artificial Intelligence and Technology Law from the University of Law. A certified information privacy professional and artificial intelligence governance professional, an innovative and strategic business analyst from the Harvard Business School with over 10 years of hands-on experience in the legal and governance field, specializing in navigating the complex landscape of global data protection laws, privacy regulations, compliance, and technology-related legal challenges. She is equipped with robust corporate communication and crisis management skills, evidenced by her work with the University of Buckingham, media presence and consultancy role with the African Union. Sheyi has a passion for human development and social impact. She currently sits on the board of the Electoral College and the Deputy Director, Southwest. Ladies and gentlemen, relax and be attentive as I yield to our facilitator to deliver your lecture. My name is Yore Justin. I am your moderator. Thank you as I call on the facilitator to deliver her lecture.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sheyi Bella Ayeni, as you've heard. So my sessions are always less of lecturing. I don't necessarily lecture. I usually hold like an engaging class. So what that means is that throughout this, I would expect us to, engage ourselves, because we're literally going to be discussing concepts back and forth, not necessarily me lecturing. So basically, I'll be challenging you to think on things critically and ponder on things, as opposed to, telling you, oh, this and that and this. So please, I would require all of us to, get ready to engage as much as we can. I always, try as much as I can to make it fun. Sometimes we end up fighting, and other times, but at least by the end of the day, by the end of the class, we would have, made up. So please, again, I plead with every single one of us to get ready to engage. No answer, there's no right or wrong answer. Let's not forget that, we're all, weighing in our thoughts and our ideas. So nobody should be scared of chipping in one thing or another, because again, there's no right or wrong answer to this. Mostly self is like, I would rely on your subjectiveness for us to then come to like an objective conclusion. So yeah, if we are ready, please, can I like get some hands raised or hello or hi or something? And if we could get some cameras on as well, that would be nice. So at least I'm not the only one with my camera on. I want to be seeing people's face as well, if that's okay, please. Can anyone and everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, ma'am.
Okay. So like I said, though, we can make use of the chat box if you're in a noisy place, but I'm not going to progress with the class if, I'm not getting responses back from you guys. So you could just raise up your hand and then I would call on you. I'd ask you to unmute and so you could talk. So please, 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 again, let's not forget to engage. And I hope that this cohort does not carry last too, because all of my classes are usually very fun and people are always, engaging and all. So again, let's get ready to do that. So as you know, the topic of this discussion is basically going to be on the judiciary and how the judiciary can help impact good governance in Nigeria. As you know, most people are always saying that, Nigeria is this, Nigeria is that, we're plagued with bad government, this, that. So this class basically is going to help us move beyond complaining and, chanting stuff like Nigeria never happened to us and things like that to actually figuring out how, we can prefer solution to some of these problems. And we're going to narrow that down to how, the judiciary can help with most, if not all of our concerns in regards, governance in Nigeria. So can someone briefly, quickly talk us through the judiciary and their role? Anyone, please. And yeah, we usually give gifts at the end of the class. So hopefully if I remember somebody's once you participate often, you get to get something at the end of the class. And I'm not going to say what, so, everyone's excited to at least put in a
So good
Yeah.
day, ma'am. Since you decided to open the gift, I decided to participate. So you decided to discuss the judiciary. So in my understanding of what the
Kunle,
judiciary is, I'm not allowed.
no, please, put yourself, you want to chop on my money, put yourself there, you're not allowed to say anything.
You said everybody in the
No,
class could
with the exception
participate.
of you, Wumi, and everybody else, please. Non-electoral college members allowed. Thank you. That's even cheating. You literally
That's
have the constitution and
marginalization.
everything in your brain. So what do you want to say? Please mute
That's
yourself.
marginal. Okay.
No, I don't need you to answer. Thank you. Let my other people answer.
That's marginalization,
No.
Shay. I must say that's deep marginalization.
Thank you for being here, by the way, Kunle. I know you're a
I'll,
very, very busy person. So to have you in my class, as always, Kunle always comes for all my classes. I don't know why. Even if he has heard me talk over and over again, but he still manages to show up. So
okay.
thank you for always
Since we are
honoring
waiting
me,
for
Kunle.
someone to pick up the gift, I'll tell the class something. So Shay is one of the rare few who was a student at the Electoral College, if I believe the second cohort,
Yes.
and she taught in her own court. She's one of the rare few that taught. The only two people that have done that. That's Amina Miango and Shay. And so we're proud, this is our first class as a BOT member. Welcome her to the BOT. So
Yeah.
there's no difference between Shay and myself now. We are equals.
No, please
We're
don't.
equals. So we're waiting for someone to interpret what the judiciary is. And Shay has gifts. I don't want to tell you that I don't want to tell you things about Shay so that you know that the gift is in very, very strong. It's in very, very strong currency. She doesn't give gifts in naira. Let me just tell you guys. So I've given you guys. So you better answer. £4 is a lot of money in naira. I've given you full dubs. That's why even as the ED, I've opened my mouth here because man, pounds they do things. Okay then later, guys.
Thank you for joining them up for me, Kunle. Thank you again. I cannot appreciate you any less, really. Thank you so much. So thanks to Kunle, at least we'll have a lot of hands up now. So Mr. Aliyu, please, and also if by any chance I did not pronounce your name right, please correct me. Thank you. So Mr. Tuku, is that right? Please can you unmute and and as quickly as possible, by the way. You have the floor. You can unmute. Aliyu, are you here? Can you hear me? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Good.
Good evening, ma.
Good evening.
Good evening, Electoral College. My name is Tukur Ali. I think judiciary is one of the three arms of government that is dealing with the legal system within the country, within our country. So I won't say much since we are there. So that's all I can say.
Okay. Thank you. Victor, Ahmed, quickly, could you unmute and if you have any addition or anything to add to that? We're waiting
Okay, good evening,
Good evening, Victor.
Shay
Good
and
evening.
everyone. Quickly, let me just say the judiciary is an arm of government that's responsible for creation of laws, like upholding of justice and spelling out penalties for going against the law, I say. And I think that's just what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. That's also correct. You both have been correct. David, do you have any addition?
Yeah, so thank you. There are three arms of government, and the judiciary's main task is solely interpretation of laws which we have in the nation. So when there's any conflict or when there's any party that feels that they have an issue, they must always take this issue that has to do with law to the judiciary to be able to interpret what the law means and to be able to give a judgment on any relevant disputes that can be taken to court, because it's not every matter that can be taken to court.
Yeah, correct. Thank you, David. That's absolutely correct. David, Oyelowo. Yes, sorry. Orofe. Any addition? Quickly.
Yeah, good evening, ma. Good evening, ma. So my own addition is, I believe that the judiciary are those that interpret the law and also enforce it. They interpret and enforce the law. So, like our justice system and the police are used to enforce the law. The prisons are used to enforce the law. If you are guilty of it, it's either you go to prison. Also, whereby the justice system, the judge, they will interpret, okay, you do this, you do that, and this is the right punishment according to the law. So yes, they interpret and enforce it.
Okay,
thank you,
so you're partially right, and thank you so much for your contribution. So they enable the enforcement of judgment. They don't necessarily enforce the law. So like that's left for the executive arm of government, do you understand? But they actually enable. So for example, when they've, prescribed justice and all, it is then the executive arm of government who then enforces the law. But in a situation whereby, that is not done, they can then even hold that arm of government accountable to ensure that they do. So you're partially right, but I just need to make sure that, that's clarified for proper understanding. So we'll move on to the next. Yeah, everybody that still has their hands raised would get a chance to answer. But I just don't want us to, wait on this for too long. If not, we won't finish the class. So yes, we are all right. Thank you very much. As everyone has said, the judiciary is one of the three arms of government. So personally, although you will not find this anywhere, and don't go and quote me an exam, but personally, I always say this, that there are four arms of government, constitutionally three. There's the legislative arm, there's the executive arm, and there's the judiciary. But in my class, I always talk about the how do I put this? The unconfirmed fourth arm, which is the citizens, the people, you and I. Because in truth, we are the ones who then keep all these remaining three arms of government accountable to like their duties and everything that they're supposed to do. Do you understand? So this is just something that I tell myself to allow me perform my civic, responsibility and all. So yes, as you've said, the judiciary is the arm of government that interprets the law and makes sure that, there is basically civilization in a country. Do you understand? They not only settle disputes between people and people, but they also do that between people and organization and even political bodies, And yeah, so people and political bodies and political bodies and political bodies. So I'm sure everybody's familiar with election petition, for example. So yes, as we know, like the sources of law in Nigeria is the Constitution, which is the main source of law. We have the legislation, the English law, customary law, Islamic law, and judicial precedent. And I want to believe that most of us know our judicial system, like the courts, the court system. We have the customary, the area and the Sharia court. Then we also have the magistrate and the district. We have the High Court, the federal courts, the Federal High Court, the High Court of FCT, and also the High Court of State. We have the National Industrial Court. I hope that we understand that National Industrial Courts don't necessarily settle disputes between individuals, but so that's for like, corporate disputes and more of like industrial disputes and all. There's also the Sharia Court of Appeal, there's the Customary Court of Appeal, then there's the Court of Appeal, and also, the main Oga Patapata of them all, which is the Supreme Court of Nigeria. So, you must have gone through a few of these steps before you get to the Supreme Court of Nigeria, except with cases of, election petitions, and in rare cases of, national emergencies like terrorism attacks and all of that. And even at that, sometimes they are like emergency court creations for, issues like that. So I don't know if you remember. So for example, during the Boko Haram period, it wasn't the normal courts that were trying, one of these terrorists that were caught. They made like a special court for that situation. So that happens once in a while, but the United Nations does not always encourage that because it allows for abuse of power and all of that. So going off of that quickly, at least we know what the judiciary does. In summary, the judiciary is a tool that is there for you and I to use, whether aggrieved, if somebody has promised you something and they do not fulfill, you can drag them there. For example, if somebody has promised you something, it also means that, during the election, my local government chairman said, that, that he's going to fix this so road if I voted him. And I voted him, he did not fix the road. That's actually a contract. Do you understand? Like, he made a promise to you. Promises are contractual because you fulfilled your own end of the bargain, right? By voting him. And he did not, do that road. You can actually take him to court for not doing that. That's the part that most people don't know. Yes, you can't do that. So, it's not only about, one land matter, no, not just that. You can actually hold your political representatives accountable with the judicial system. So that's the part they don't really preach like that, or they don't really teach you in secondary school, because nobody wants to get into trouble. Nobody wants, knowledge is power. Nobody wants you to know that, it is actually your right, to do this and do that. It is actually your right, so you can do that. So yes, the judiciary is also, responsible for that. They are waiting for you to use them. You have to actually go to them. They won't just magically work for you if you don't go to them to ask them to work for you. So governance, I'm sure, we'll have one or two things to say about governance. Does anyone have anything to tell me what at least the idea of governance, what they think governance means or should be doing, anything at all? Anybody? Wale, you're raising your hand up. Is this for the governance question? I hope it's for the governance question because it's only your hands that are raised. I don't know why. Wale, yes. Please unmute and tell us what you think about governance, please. Hello? Hello. Wale, are you here? Okay. Oluwabusayo, Peter, are you here? Are you here?
Actually, you can speak. You're muted.
Okay. Governance is about government benefiting the people or sharing the dividends of democracy equally to the citizens, irregardless of their political affiliations. And it is also the presence of rule of law and transparency in government. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good explanation. You explained it like you yourself, you're even lecturing. Ibrahim Jari, could you unmute and, tell us something about good governance?
Good evening, madam.
Good evening.
Yeah, governance is simply it applies to relationship between the governor and the governed. Such that it safeguard the human rights
Mm-hmm.
and the existence of honest and efficient government accountability. Accountability and transparency.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
One more. Mr. Giwa. Okay, two more actually. Giwa. After Giwa, would have David. Then yeah. Giwa, is your hand still raised? Do you want to say something about governance?
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening.
I think when we talk of governance, we're talking about a systematic process where some people are being delegated with authority to make decision and enforce decision for a particular set of people within the legal jurisdiction of the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah. Okay, yeah. Mr. David Oriofe.
My own understanding is governance is just the way in which power is being exercised to manage both human resources and economic resources. Just the management, but the way the power is being used to manage them. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So yeah, we are all right. Simply put, governance is a relationship between the governors and the governed. So basically, it's the relationship that we have with our leaders. This relationship is further explained as a social setting where the governors strive to meet the needs of the people rather than a particular sector. So I remember the first person that spoke on governance explained that they are like our leaders who make sure that our needs are met, whether or not you put them in power or not, it does not matter. Do you understand? So I always like to use a particular phrase, of all the ills that killed the poor, none is as little as bad government. And I would like to say that this is where our class actually really, really starts from. So yeah, in order for we to say that there's a presence of good governance, we have to have like 6 things in place, but we're only going to discuss 5 today. There has to be the rule of law, there has to be control of corruption, there has to be accountability and transparency, there has to be political stability, there has to be effectiveness and efficiency, and last, regulatory quality. And does anyone want, and the major thing that envelopes all of this is the need for judicial independence. Because even if you have all of this in place and there's no judicial independence, then we're in trouble. So before we go ahead and talk about judicial independence, I need someone to briefly, talk us through what they understand by rule of law, what they think rule of law is. Anybody? Anybody? We have 44 people in this class, and it's the same set of people raising their hands up. Why now? What is happening? What is happening? Mr. Davidson, are you here? Can you hear us? I'm going to start calling people. Davidson, can you hear us? Are you here? Hello, Davidson.
Yeah,
Yes. Can you hear us, please?
I can hear you. I can hear you right now. Yes.
Yes. Please, can you quickly engage and talk my class through what you understand rule of law to be, concept of accountability and transparency, anti-corruption and political stability as quickly as you can? Could you kindly discuss these concepts if you can, please?
Okay, so I'm just gonna go through that quickly. I would refer to the works of A.V. Dicey,
Mm-hmm.
who is a chief proponent on the rule of law. And A.V. Dicey categorized rule of law into three. He said it has to do with the rights of individuals, equality before the law, and the freedom of the people. So when you look at like rule of law, equality before the law is very important, which means that the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature are all like they're equal before the law, and which provides for checks and balances. It means that the legislature creates laws that the judiciary and the executive must follow. The executive must enforce those laws, and the judiciary has to interpret those laws. So no one is above the law, and the judiciary can be prosecutes the executives or members of the legislatures who violates this law. So equality before the law is very important when we look at the rule of law. And when we look at like anti-corruption, it's very important like for judicial independence. A lot of the times we find that the executives, might be engaged in one form of corruption or the other. So anti-corruption requires that the judiciary should be able to prosecute persons who engage in, corrupt activities, that kind of thing. And no one is immune. Well, currently, when we look at the Nigerian constitution, we find that the executive, the president, and the governor of the state, they are being immune from like criminal and civil prosecution. And that's because the purpose was to see that they are not distracted from their, public civic duties. There have been concerns as to that because we find that, the executive legislature have used that, provision of the constitution to violate, public rights. But ultimately, the judiciary is independent where they can be able to prosecute corrupt, practices. And this should extend to both like any person in the state, including like the governor or the president. It's very important. And we find that in some states, the judiciary can prosecute anybody. Even in America, the judiciary can prosecute the president for civil offense, even while the president is still sitting. Probably not for criminal, but for civil, and no one is really immune. If you're a past president, no one is really immune, like we've seen in the case of Trump recently, but even as a sitting president, you're not immune from civil, offenses. Criminal, in fact, the law doesn't even say you're immune for criminal. There's still a bit of, it's just that America has not had any current sitting president being like charged for criminal, But what I'm trying to say is that, yes, anti-corruption is very important to ensure the independence of the judiciary. Political stability requires that government must ensure that there are like certain policies, there are consistent policies in place, to enforce the democratic rights of people. We can't have a situation where a particular regime is respecting fundamental rights, and then we have another regime taking back on this, fundamental rights of the people. When that happens, then that affects democracy a lot. So there needs to be that political stability to enforce, democracy. And in Nigeria, it's very important, which is why, a lot of times we find that the fundamental rights of the people have been infringed. That's because we have seen cases where successive governments abolish rights and then other governments reinstate and all of that. A bit of inconsistency. So political instability is where these rights are not like, they remain unchanged, for that. public, accountability.
Yes, David. Thank you so much for, taking us through these points really quickly. You see, I knew that you guys had it in you. Thank you. Like, I don't even have anything to add to what Davidson has said. Absolutely nothing. He was spot on, and he even summarized it so quickly for us to understand. I can't imagine anybody else having any additions to that. But just in case, Solomon, Joseph, you have your hands raised. Do you want to unmute to add anything to what David has said? Hello, Solomon Joseph.
Yeah, good evening. Sorry, I think he has said everything I never wanted to say, even though my hand was up. I thought of bringing my hand down. But the summary is the rule of law is actually, like he said, is a fundamental principle
Yes.
that shows that everybody is accountable
Yes.
to anything. So whether private, individual, institution, the law is above everybody. By the time we see it like that, I think good governance will come in place. So I think the rule of law is actually a principle that shows, that should guide us, that should tell us that there is nobody that is actually above the law. Thank you.
Yes. So these 5 concepts are very, very important for us to remember for this next step. So please, I'll briefly say that let's all remember that we've just said that for us to say that good governance exists, in any democratic state, there has to be the presence of rule of law. So as Mr. David has said, and Mr. Solomon has agreed to, it means that, nobody's above the law. Do you understand? When there's a law, everybody follows, whether governor or governed or the governor, like anybody, nobody's above the law, first off. And there has to be like a control over corruption. Yeah. Third, there has to be a system in place for accountability and transparency. I hope we do know that there's a difference between accountability and transparency, because most people mix that up. Transparency is whatever the government is doing, they need to tell you about it, because then again, for example, if you run a company and you appoint a CEO, the CEO has an objective to report to the board his plans for the company and how he's going to take the company from B to A. Do you understand? So that's transparency. Your appointed leaders coming to you to say that this is my plans, this is how I'm going to do it, and this is what we've done so far. And then accountability then come next, with you saying that, oh, based on what you've said as per transparency, you said you're going to do A, B, C. Now I have to hold you accountable to make sure that ABC is done. So when you have that in place, do you understand? You can then say that you do have like some measure of good governance. And then there's political stability. As Mr. Davidson has also said, imagine having all of this and then always being thrown into civil war. You can imagine. Not only it's not even necessarily about the governance aspect of this, it's the economy as well, investment and everything. And when investment is pulling out of your country because of how politically unstable the country is, the economy will suffer. And when the economy suffers, the people suffer. When people suffer, there's a rise of criminal activities, as I'm sure, all of us can see based on the not necessarily the current situation of Nigeria, but the situations that has been happening over time. So yes, so again, I need us to remember that these 5 things, we have to put it at one point, like put it at the back of your mind, that for good governance to be present, these 5 things has to be in place. Now, let's say, okay, the economy is so good. In fact, we have, the right people in place and everything. And by the glory of the system and whatever you believe in, we have these 5 things in place too. What next? There's one more vital thing that is like a glue, like putting everything together, making sure that everything comes together for good. I don't know if anybody can guess, but I mentioned it previously. Can anybody take a wild guess? I'm telling you, if anybody even guessed this one, I'll be so blown and happy. And I'll, in fact, you'll be impressed with your gifts. Can anybody take a remote? Our class coordinator has even put it up here already, so I'll just say it. The independence of the judiciary. So now we understand what the judiciary is. We understand what good governance is. We understand the tools that have to be in place for we to, and these tools, by the way, were developed by the World Bank and also supported by the United Nations. It's the yardstick that every country follows, every democratic country follows. But there's one important tool to make sure that all of this works well. You know, it's one thing to have a judiciary or a working judiciary, it's another thing to have an independent judiciary. And now we are at the out of the class. So can anyone please kindly tell me what they believe the independence of judiciary to mean? Anybody, please. It's only Peter that's always raising his hand. And same people. Please, guys, I need your hands up. Don't let me be bored of this class. So I need to be fired up, and it's only you that can fire me up. Anybody? Wild guess? Olumide Ogunbi, please unmute and tell us what you think the independence of the judiciary means. Hello, Mr. Olumide, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, They're talking about what the independence of the judiciary means. I believe the independence of the judiciary is when the judiciary is able to discharge justice without fear or favor of whoever is involved. You know, if any case comes to them, they should be able to go by the Constitution and don't fear anybody, irrespective of whose earth is God. I think that's what it means, that they are independent of whatever decision they are making with no outside influence.
Good. That's a very good explanation, and you're completely right. Thank you. Isaac James, do you have any addition to that?
I don't think I have any addition, because I know the judiciary should be independent. There should not be any outside influence whenever they are taking their decision. They should stick with what the Constitution says, and maybe any other precedent.
Yes, I 100% agree with you. Finally, I'm seeing new names. So, Judith, please tell me that you are a woman. Our first woman speaker. Please kindly unmute.
I'm all right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judith, for saving my gender. Oh yeah, I'm very excited to have you here. Oh yeah.
All right, to me, just to add to everything that they have said, it means that the judiciary actually have something we call, they operate independently from the executive and also the legislative branches. It also means that they are financially independent, because you cannot be independent when you rely on the government to finance you. For instance, if you look at the Human Rights Commission, I wonder why the Human Rights Commission is being financed by the government, because it simply means they will not have the side of the public. It also, I think, lastly, I would say that there's also a process where there is judges are actually appointed by transparent means, and there is no influence like what we currently have, where you have family members coming into the judiciary systems and all. I think I'll just stop there for others to add to it as well.
Okay. So thank you. You're absolutely right. So we have some wonderful comments in the chat box too as well. You know, Ibrahim Mohammed said judiciary independence is the principle which stipulates and ensures that the judges are not subject to pressure and influence when adjudicating matters, and free to make impartial decisions based solely on fact and law. Correct? Judicial independence is the ability of courts and judges to perform their duties free of influence and control by other actors, whether governmental or private. The term is also used in normative sense to refer to the kind of independence that courts and judges ought to possess. Yes, that's right. Everyone's right. Thank you. So we all understand what the independence of judiciary is. But if you think deep, based on the answer that we've all given, don't you think that it clashes with one very other important concept? Can anybody take a wild guess? Because if we say that, the judiciary should be, independent from the other, arms of government, they should be a standalone, not be interfered with anybody, no one should interfere with them, they should just be by themselves and they're on their own. Doesn't it clash with one major democratic concept? I need us to think really hard here. Think really hard. And if your hands are raised from the last question, please put it down, because I'm about to call names of the hands that are raised right now. I might probably botch your name. I apologize in advance. And please, when you unmute, the first thing you need to do is correct me so that I'll be able to pronounce it better next time. So Chin, I'm just going to work with Chin. Yeah. Actually, let me make an effort. Hold on. Chinyewa. Please, could you unmute? Hello.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, my name is Chinenye.
Yeah, Chinenye. Sorry, come again.
Chinenye Nwanganga.
Okay, thank you.
Chinenye.
Okay, thank you. So tell us, what concept do you think the independence of judiciary clashes? The independence of any arm of government, really. What do you think it clashes with? The word, especially the word independent.
It should be separation of power, because the judicial independence when there is separation of power between the different arms of government. This will enable them to perform their duty without fear or favor.
Thank you, because I've been going through the chat comments. I really appreciate the attempt, but you must have been an A1 government student, so Abi. What do you do currently, please?
Okay, I studied political science. I'm out of school now.
Perfect. Please, then you need to message me at the end of this class. I like how quickly your brain works on that. So yes, the major concept, it gives the illusion that the independence of judiciary actually clashes with, the principle of separation of power. Do you understand? And also one other major concept, so we have independence of judiciary now clashing with the concept of separation of power. And when that clashes, it gives birth to a mini baby. Can anybody, try to work the brain and think of that one thing? Isaac James, is your hand still raised for this question? Simon Giwa, somebody just say it. If you just say it, somebody just unmute and say it. Judith, yes. Well, that's one way to put it. Judith said accountability, and it's popularly called the concept of checks and balances. So do you understand now? So just imagine you have an institution, in this case, the judiciary, so independent that it is a standalone. It then would come in conflict with the principle of, separation of power, and by default checks and balances, because it would go on and operate on its own. And even though we're saying that, like these 5 other things that we've discussed about, if you remember, the rule of law, political stability, transparency, and accountability, if they are going unchecked, do you understand? They will be the arm of government that is supposed to, help governance and prefer solutions, will then be the one at risk of, breaking this rule of law that, that has been so intricately put in place. So that's why there's a need to find the balance within the independence of the judiciary. So now that we've gone through the concept, all these concepts, yeah, let's now bring it to the Nigerian factor. And then at the end of this class, you understand why I hate. In fact, please, we are currently 45 here, and I'm going to ask Mr. Kunle for everybody's names. Do you understand? After this class, I hope that every one of us here will be cured of the popular saying of, may Nigeria never happen to you. Because I'm going to make each and every one of us understand here and now how, Nigeria is on its own. Well, in fact, we should, like, before we say things generally, we should always learn to think. Because if we are saying, may Nigeria never happen to someone, we're literally saying, may I not happen to you. That's literally what you're saying. Because then again, what makes Nigeria? It's not the 0.001% political class. It's me that makes Nigeria. You make Nigeria. You're the Nigerians that are in Nigeria. So when you're chanting on social media or telling another person, may Nigeria never happen to you, you're literally saying, may I not happen to you. That's what you're saying. Because again, what makes Nigeria? It is me and you now. Do you get? So I hope that after this class, would realize that, following the bad wagon to just chant and say stuff, not only doesn't make sense, but we're also like, we're part of the system that makes Nigeria what it is today. So going forward, we have the independence of Nigeria. Nigeria, the laws and everything claims to have that in place. But as we know, for any judiciary to be said to be independent, they have to have like these other small babies attached to them. Can anyone, think of anything? So when you want to measure how independent judiciary is, what are the things you would, put into consideration? It's not that far-fetched. It's very easy. What are the things you put into consideration when, So someone said, when we were defining independence of judiciary, we said that, they have to be able to, do their duties. They have to be able to operate without fear or favor. Do you understand? They have to, be able to do whatever they need to do without thinking about anybody or anything or being worried about anything. So that means that for the judiciary to be independent, right, there has to be, clear separation of power. Yeah. There has to be the measure for like appointing the judiciary has to be clear and not tied to any other, organization. The security of tenure and their removal has to also be clear. Do you understand? Finality of decisions has to be clear. Their qualification, and all of that. Abi, or what do you think? So, for example, if I always try to bring these concepts down to, so that we understand that it's not that much of a big deal. So say, for example, you work in an organization, you're being employed by a certain boss, yeah. And then the boss comes to you to tell you to do this, do that, do that. Even if it is against your better judgment, 70 to 80% of the time, you'll be inclined to act in accordance to what your boss says. Why? Because they were the ones that employed you, right? And they have the right to fire you, right? Yes or no? So let me just even throw this question open. Let's say you are in an organization and your boss says, you know what, I know that, in order for us to transfer this money to our contractor, due diligence has to be in place, but we are out of time. There's no time for due diligence right now. So we've worked with this organization before. We know them, as the accountant or the head of financial department, you need to wire this money to this organization. But you know that the right thing to do, whether you've worked with these people a million times, it doesn't matter. You know that the right thing to do is to actually carry out this due diligence. But then your Oga is on your neck to say, send this money now. Knowing that, your salary is very fat and juicy. And if you go against your boss, there's a possibility that, it doesn't even mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't make you bad. It doesn't make you good. It doesn't make you anything. You just know that you have mouths to feed at home, you have school fees to pay, and all of this. Do you understand? And your boss is telling you to do this thing that may not necessarily harm you, but sets a bad precedent. Do you understand? Would you or would you not do it? It's a simple question. Like I said, it doesn't make you bad, it doesn't make you good, it doesn't make you anything. It just makes you human in a world of whatever. This one is basic. I'm not asking you to think. So please, at this point, I should be seeing hands raised. Like I said, I didn't come here to teach. Like we are having a conversation. Mr. Olumide, please tell me,
Okay. In that situation,
Mm-hmm.
I know what the boss is telling me to do is a little bit wrong because he's pressurizing me not to do due diligence.
Mm-hmm.
In my own situation, what I would do is to ask him for a written document to put it in black and white, authorizing me to do that without due diligence, so that I will be saved if anything should come out at the end of it that I didn't do it out of my own volition, but I was instructed. I will ask for a black and white document to back me up, because if anything happened at the end of the day, I'll be able to present a document that he told me to do it. I didn't do it out of my own volition. Or if I want to go further to complain to regulatory authority, I'll have something to back me up. Not that I did it on my own, so that I will not be accused of wrongdoing.
Yeah, obviously you won't be doing it on your own, but the point is that you will do it right. Yeah, it's honestly, I'm telling you now as the class coordinator that if I was in that position, you do understand, I have 2 girls, I have mouths to feed, some of us are the breadwinners of our family, and the owner of the company. You say what's your own, Abi? Shebi the owner of the company that said I should do this. Who am I in the what drop of water what difference does my own drop of water make in the ocean? Do you understand? We'll go ahead and do it. It's like I said, it has nothing to do with you being good, it has nothing to do with you being bad. It's unfortunately just the system that we have in place at that time, which does not necessarily affect you as an employer. Do you understand? Because you do know that the repercussion of you not doing that will most likely mean that you get out of job. And not only will you get out of job, there's a likelihood that you'll be blacklisted and you may not be able to get any other job again. So by the time you put that into consideration, it takes it to a whole other level. So you see that it is not necessarily a human factor, but a system factor. Every man is built with survival instinct. Every man, even if you can take it, by the time your children are crying, oh, daddy, mommy, I'm hungry, I want to do this. Or when other people's children are going to school, your own is sitting down. It's basic survival instinct. Yeah, like I said, it's a no-brainer. So in such a case, it is not you failing as an individual, but the system at that particular time, do you understand? Failing you, sort of. Do you get it now? So it means that for the judiciary to be truly, truly independent, yeah, they have their financial status, for example, how they are appointed. Let's even start with how they're appointed. Has to be on neutral grounds. They cannot be appointed by the executive arm of government. Do you understand? And it's also the same executive arm of government that also has a certain level of power to sack them. Do you understand? You know why? Because when that then happens, it means that whenever there's a case between a certain governor or a certain state, do you understand? Your governor, who is your boss at the time, because that's what they call themselves, right? You'd be inclined to pass a judgment in their favor. And what happens then is that you've gone against the rule of law. You've gone against accountability, and corruption has taken place, further, eating into the governance system. Do you understand? Further making, governing a certain area hard. Do we understand the link now? Like, is it making sense? So sometimes when we say, oh, this person is bad, that person is bad, oh, one judge is corrupt, or one lawyer is corrupt, or one governor did this, or one governor did that. These are like the little tiny things that are going underneath, that are taking place underneath, that we don't necessarily know or understand. But thankfully, after this class now, at least we do understand that, the problem is not the man. Sometimes I do say that in Nigeria, we do have a big people's problem, by the way. But in situations like this, the problem is not the man. The problem is the system. Our system allows for that to happen. So first off, even if, people in the right places are trying to do their jobs, there are sometimes you've seen that you've elected honorable men. Do you understand? I know this justice, and I know this judge. I know this politician. He's a very honorable man. He's good, is that. I'm so shocked that, he got into power and he did this. Oh, this is so disappointing. These are like the things that happen underneath that we don't necessarily see. And because Nigerians are, they are quick to join a bandwagon, they don't necessarily think critically. Yeah, they don't see. When you don't even know what the problem is, how do you even solve it? Where do you start from with solving a problem that you don't even know exists in the first place? Do you understand? So that's one major problem that we have. And that's why sometimes you would hear people saying that there's a need to, reform the constitution. And you even hear people going as far as saying that, oh, there's a need to chuck the whole constitution into the bin and, make a new. I think that's extreme, but yeah, that's where all of that comes from. And you hear that a lot. Appointment of, judicial staffs in the first place, as far as, constitutionally concerned, is kind of flawed. Do we understand that, or do we need further explanation? Please, engagement, please. Hello, do we understand that, please? Hello. Anybody? Yes, okay. I've seen that you guys are communicating using the chat box. I don't know if you guys are shy or something, but at least I've gotten a response that you guys understand. So I'm sure that, so let me even give you an example, yeah. I don't know is anybody from River State here? Is anybody from River State here, please? Okay. I was hoping that there will be someone from River State to, take us through the issue that happened with, for example, with Governor Rotimi Amechi and him declining to appoint the Justice Okocha as Chief Judge for River State. Then it was basically, due to this. Do you understand? And for example, yeah, it was basically due to this, knowing that, oh, this person maybe is not from my political party, or this person is from my political party, or this person, I cannot easily sway their decision. They then go into shopping for judges that best suit them, as if, they are going to a supermarket to pick a cloth that would, suit you or would look good on you. And it shouldn't be that way, right? You should earn your spot with all of the necessary criteria and qualifications, of course, yes. But we have a lot of cases in Nigeria with that happening, with all of us being there. We're all looking at it, we're all seeing it, you understand? We watch it happen, we don't say anything, and then we run on social, Nigeria never happened to you. Yeah. So yeah. So the next major issue would be, can anybody help? This one is also really, really easy. There are about 5 really, but only 2 is worth mentioning that it's deep into our system. Anybody? This one is easy and it's quite a popular problem. Peter, are you raising your hand? Please, can you unmute and tell us? So we've talked about the procedure for appointing and removing judge. Yeah, there's one major one.
Nepotism, where people bring their families, their relatives, point them in position of power in the judicial system, where they will deliver judgment that will favor them.
Yes, you're right. And that's also under
where they will arm themselves with people they know and they can.
Yeah, very correct. But that's also under official appointments, because they have the power to, they partake in things like nepotism. So yes, that's also one of the problems of the executive arm of government, having, power to do that. Although they always say that it's based on the recommendation of, the necessary institutions in place, like, for example, the National Judicial Council, but we all know that that's a loophole, and, you know, that's not exactly what happens in the real sense of it. So again, what's that one major thing? We've talked about appointment and we've talked about dismissal, like how judges and judicial staffs are appointed and dismissed, you know, because, you know, the executive arm of government has a strong vision that, you know, it's going to be kind of really, really hard to expect, you know, a free and fair, you know, judiciary or an independent judiciary. This one is a very big one, no? And we even somehow touched on it as we're talking.
Maybe political influence.
No, it's a very big one. No. Where are our government students now? Where are our government students? Try. You can do it. You can do this. You can see that these things are not, you see that it's not that easy. So next time when people are going to tongue lash people, always remember that, you know, it's easy to talk, but when you get into the system, you see that it's not as it seems. There's one major issue. In fact, it's a big motivator to why we do anything at all as human beings. Like, it is what motivates about almost 90 to 99.9% of humans in general. I've given you like a big expo already. Give us your hand up. Yes, Peter, finally. Yes, Victor. Now our brain is working. Money. What do they call? People should just be dropping the meaning of money in your language on the chat box. Let me see it, please. Like various meanings of money, whatever it means in your dialect. Please drop it on. Thank you. Yes. Money. Yes, ego. Shidi. Please keep going. Yeah. Money. Big factor. Maybe I cannot pronounce that one. No. Maybe you should unmute and help us. Mr. Muritala. Kudi. Yes, money. In fact, is the Baba Pata of them all. The overall crown. Money. Please, can somebody graciously, somebody that is not Davidson, tell us, like, you know, how this works? Somebody. Somebody now. Nikoko Moses. Yes, Nikoko. Moses, thank you for that. Can somebody tell us how, what role does money have to do here? And nobody should say money as per they could use money to bribe people. Think well. Okay, Peter, are you raising your hand? Or it's from the last question? Hello? Peter, are you about to talk before I go on to Giwa?
Yeah. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. So funding, money, and all. I think it's very important. I didn't know how. I did not remember the other time. Funding is so important because the backbone of every organization, even entities, the motivation, the inspiration is money. And if it is coming from the executive and it is cut off, it can influence whatever decision the judiciary wants to make. If there's too much of it to a particular person or a particular figure in the judiciary, it influence the decision of the court. It will influence the judgment of the judiciary, and this can lead to corruption too. This is even corruption already.
Yeah.
When you deprive them of their salary, they will want to please whoever is funding them. There's a saying that who pays the piper dictates the tune.
Yeah.
So when you pay them, when you are the one that is funding them, they tend to do what you want them to do. And
Yes.
if you take their money away, you have frustrated the system already. Thank you.
Yes. Brilliant. So yes, the major plague within the thing that would crumble any independent judiciary as quickly as you stay in is financial autonomy and also the remuneration of judges. I'm sure we kind of like understand and get that. So if again, remember the first example that we used, you're being employed to this very awesome job, and this job, is the source of life. Maybe you're the breadwinner of like, your family members, maybe family members of 20 or something, and you do get paid well, yeah. But it somewhat comes with a catch because your boss will expect some things. And even when you're already in the system and you know that if I don't do this thing, it's as if the next project I want to embark on, they will not give us they will not give us the go ahead, they will not give us the financial tools to help us achieve our next project, or they may simply withhold our salary and not pay us. Don't you think that that in itself crumbles the independence of the judiciary? And a lot of political bodies use this as a tool. It happens all the time, all the time, all the time. But because again, we as Nigerians were just quick to follow a bandwagon, we don't necessarily like reading, we don't like researching, we don't like getting to the bottom of things. We just pick the first headline we see or the first thing we see, and then we run with it like headless chickens. We're all guilty of this, including me. You understand? So yeah. The constitutional framework in Nigeria for revenue distribution is not designed to allocate funds among the different government branches, but rather between levels of government. What this means is that the judiciary, only the judiciary that has this problem, unlike the legislative, has to. So legislative, they don't have to submit any budget or anything to anybody, but the judiciary has to submit a budget proposal to the executive. Listen, they have to submit a budget proposal to the executive, which then requires legislative approval. So you see that, in fact, two people are pressing your neck. You have to submit something to the executive arm of government. You have to fight for approval of that one. After fighting for approval of that one, you now have to go to the legislative arm of government again to fight again. Do you understand? Both what back and front. And during this process, the budget, what you find that budget, salaries, and everything are always, modified in accordance to the whims of the political leadership. So, for example, you hear things like, Shebi, even when you are a judge with integrity and uprightness, you do the right thing, you hear things like, don't worry, we know where to catch him in front. You bring, your budget for the year or for whenever, do you understand? And you are just getting it declined every time. Chances are your next court case, you're going to, bend to the will of either the executive arm of government or the legislative arm of government. That's just the sad truth. That's just the sad truth. And even with, funds, the Constitution provides for funding for the judiciary, but it's designed in such a way that it's not even, So, for example, the Constitution states that funds designated for the judiciary should be directly disbursed from the something called like the Consolidated Revenue Funds and also the Federation accounts to the National Judicial Council, which then allocates them, to various constitutional establishment courts at both federal and state level. Do you understand? But who knows the big but here? Any government student here? But what? Nobody. So, for example, magistrate court is the court charged in handling almost like most cases within a state, most, especially like most criminal cases. Who pays their salary? Hmm? Nobody knows. Nobody really. Mr. Gumbi, listen, is your hand raised? Mr. Gumbi, is your hand raised?
Yes, my hand is raised. What you're saying is the fund is subject to the approval of the executive. If the executive decides to be mysterious and they are not approving the approved budgetary allocation, then the judiciary will be kind of Armstrong in delivery of their mandate at the judiciary.
Yes, correct. So you see where the problem is. The problem is that it is not that we don't have these systems and all of these fancy laws in place. It is that we have them, do you understand? But then have, loopholes that stifle them. And not only do we have loopholes that even stifle them, the other fourth arm of government that I told you about that nobody talks about, do you understand? Is so inactive and dormant that they just expect manna from heaven just like that. Fourth arm of government is me, by the way, and is you. Do you understand? Let's now so now we understand how, in the natural sense of things, we understand how, because of the functions and obligations of the judiciary, do you understand? They have the power and ability to promote good governance within any democratic institution, do you understand? Because they are the one who uphold the rule of law, they are upholder of transparency and accountability, anti-corruption measures, political stability, and all of these fancy terms that makes for good governance. But then we've also found that for the judiciary to do that, they have to be independent. Now, the problem is that, they cannot be independent, or at least they are struggling to be independent because of all of these other extra problems, like how they are appointed, how they are sacked, and how they are paid, and also, all of that. So we understand those pediments. Do you understand? Those big fancy concepts. But do you realize that if you actually think deep, are we even, before any of that, like do we give judicial ammo? Like, they are just there. Do we even give? Some of us will say that justice system in Nigeria is a failure. Justice system in Nigeria does not work. It does not do this. But we fail to realize that they don't work because you don't put them to work. They can't work by themselves. It's an institution. They don't by themselves carry matters on top of their head. No, you have to bring matters to them. That's how it works. Accountability. Remember how we spoke about, is typical election year, for example. Typical election year, yeah. This year, let's say all of the elections are happening at the same time. Local government chairman, House of Rep, and senators, your president and everything. They come to you, they campaign aggressively. They promise you all of these fancy things, fancy terms. They tell you that, there will be job, there will be free education, there will be road, there will be infrastructures, there will be all of this blah, 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 blah. Do you understand? And they even, go ahead to give you rice, beans, curry, and all of that. Do you understand? And they tell you that, don't worry, when I come to office, more of this will come. We'll go ahead and we'll vote for them. And then when they get into power, they do not do the things that they promised to do. And everybody will now start shouting on, social media now is the new thing. Although I'm grateful for it because it's helped a lot, but all of us, most people seem to hide under the banner of social media. Their rants starts and ends there. We then go online to say that, the president is a bad president. He's not doing things. He did not fix this road, or the transformer on my street blew. There's no light for weeks. Our president is bad. Really? Like, I want this, we're getting to the core of this class, engagement and critical thinking. Although we have this fancy name that, the class is, judicial, but really it's critical thinking. Is before you talk, sit down and think critically. Who are you? Just, so your president in Abuja, where he is, you think he would know that your transformer in maybe Etiosa, in one corner of Etiosa is bad? Like you that you're expecting the president, do you know what is going on in your compound's house, your neighbor's house? No, they are like chains to these things, and there's hierarchy. Just like, and that's why I always say to people that people don't understand that your local government chairman is more important to you, and useful than somebody in the capital. Why? Because it's your local government chairman that is responsible for things like, one transformer has blown, or the inner street road is not good, or there are no street light. Because there are no street light, there's a lot of maybe rape going on, robbery and all of that, and you say, Tinubu is such a bad president, when really in truth you are a bad citizen. You're a bad citizen because you do not even understand or know the chain of command. You do not understand that it's your role, to hold your local government or your local governor accountable to those things that you need to do, so that as you are pressing your local governor's neck, do you understand? As you are pressing his neck, and he sees that, these are the people that, you know why? Because our local governors, they are the ones that live within our community. They are not sitting in Aso Rock. They are our neighbors. By the time you make life as hard for them as it is hard for you, they will go and hold House of Rep. House of Rep will go to the Senate House, Senate ground, hold that one. Oh, that one will hold the president. It's chain of command. You cannot be attacking president, where that is why he has, these generals on the field. But we're not even making use of these generals on the field. We're not making use of them. We just expect manna from heaven, boom. We expect magic, boom. Lack of knowledge is very dangerous. Very dangerous. Most of us here, we don't even know who our local government chairman is. Does anybody know who their local government chairman is? There was one class we had, and it was so funny because we had this talk, and I'd invited a few local government chairmans. In fact, a local government chairman is also a part of us. I'd invited them, they came into the class, do you understand? We discussed all of this, and people from that area did not even know that their representatives were in this class. Opportunity to even tender your problem, to say that, this is what's going on, or can you help? Because they do not even know who their representative was. They could not even identify that their representative was in their midst. Don't you think that's a big problem? It's as simple as that. We don't even know. And you expect, your president, wherever it is, to know where he's biting you. Where you don't even know where he's biting you hard enough to, to do the necessary research that is needed. How many of us, you know that there's power in collective movement, and there's power in togetherness. Because whatever is affecting you is most likely affecting your neighbor. You're not the only one with that problem. So what that means is, no one is asking you to fight the government, because honestly, you cannot fight the government, But by the time you go and meet your neighbor, neighbor, this problem of light, and my business, freezer, everything has, gone bad, your neighbor will be like, I thought I was the only one. No, me too. Then the both of you will go and meet the next door neighbor. Yes, so like it's true, like the mosquito self is too much. And then the next door neighbor will be like, I could not even pump water self. My children could not go to school because of this, that. And before you know it, you have, your community. Do you understand? And you guys as one go as a community to go and meet Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this is what you said you will do, and you've not done it, And for the fact that your chairman lives amongst you, he does not have the privilege of camping in Abuja. Do you understand? By the time you meet him once, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and it becomes a movement, a chant. You're not going, I'm not asking for front of toll gates, like to chant, and after like 7 days, that dies there. No. Like it becomes a proper thing. And you people can put a face to your leader. Do you know what that means? He would not be able to sleep well. 2 things will happen. The first thing is that if he's been given fund allocation to do the very thing you guys are complaining about, he will be forced to do it. And if he was not given the funds allocation to do that, he will be forced to go and meet the people that are holding those funds to, me, I cannot sleep at home again. This is what's going on, I need to do this, I need to do that for my people. But no, we're just all sitting in our house, pressing our phone, attacking government, attacking this, on to the next thing. Of course, you're making it easy for the thief to steal. What do you expect? As, let's say me, if I'm a thief, or and I keep stealing from you, and stealing from you is so sweet that you don't complain, you don't say anything, you don't even ask me why. Come on now. And your property is always there. What do you think will happen? I will continue now, yes or no? No repercussion, no caution, no consequence, no nothing. Yeah, just leaving it there for me to steal. Of course, you're enabling my natural instinct. Of course, it will continue. And even if you complain, I'll say that, these people just say, this thief has come again. They've stolen from me. They've done, Shebi, let me give these people 1 or 2 weeks break, 3 weeks break. After like 3 weeks, they will work more, they will leave their thing on the table, and I'll come. That's how easy Nigerians are making these things for people who they believe are oppressing them. It's as simple as that. Accountability, you've been promised something, you're not getting it, you've made, no real attempt to get it. Even if the justice system is there, you cannot even say that, people actually take these things to court and actually win. It's just that, they don't make noise about it because they don't want you to know that that's the way to go around it, right? They want the system to be to remain the way it is, and some coconut head generation to continue to just fight on Instagram like there are structures and policies on Instagram that would all of a sudden make their lives better. But no, for everyone here who has never taken the time out to actually see and understand how this works, honestly, you have no right to go online to rain abuses or complaints, because you as an individual, you've not even done your work. Sometimes, let's even bring it down to how people drive. For example, in Lagos, you see red lights. A lot of us are guilty. I'm not even going to absolve myself from this. You see red lights, you drive past as per above the law. You cannot even obey that simple rule. You will go to an organization, you will still, you move up, you do the same. That's how we start. So really, honestly, that's how we start. How are we even holding ourselves accountable? Move on from ourselves. Organizationally, are we holding ourselves as bosses accountable? Some of us have businesses. And most Nigerians don't even understand the concept of tax. And yet, all of a sudden, expect Nigeria to be better. UK is like this. It would never have happened. It could never have happened in the UK. It can never. Do you know how they tax people in the UK? You pay for everything. For you to watch TV in your house, you have to pay. You have to pay to watch TV in your house. I'm not talking about something like DSTV subscription. No. You have to pay to watch TV in your house. Even if you own your house, do you understand? You bought your house, or you're even a tenant, you have to pay monthly. Do you understand? Council tax. You say that, school is free in the UK, that, education, everything is free, that you can even go to the hospital free of charge. It's not free of charge, anything. You pay for it monthly. Council tax. How many of you know what tax is? How many of you have paid tax for your businesses in Nigeria? All of a sudden, but magically, you want a reformed system. It doesn't work that way. It's a give and take thing. Us, as the fourth arm of government, the question is, what are we doing daily, to make lives better for ourselves, to be better people, thereby allowing for a better country? No brainer, we do have a big governance issue, a major governance issue. But the point is that it takes us waking up. It takes us being accountable as well, and taking it a step further by holding the necessary parties accountable for there to be an actual change. A thief will not change if you're making life comfortable for it. That's enjoyment. Think about it. What roles are we playing as individuals to make lives better for us as Nigerians? Hey, a tanker fell, do you understand, from a bridge and crushed maybe a small car with people inside. And you go, may Nigeria never happen to you. Despite, bad governance is bad. How is it bad governance? We have traffic laws that says that, even when VIO comes to inspect your motor and they're telling you this motor is not in a good condition to move, you understand? You people will insult the official, do this, this, that. Do you understand? Now the truck that is not supposed to be on the road in the first place and is a Nigerian, maybe one of the people that had messaged overnight saying, may Nigeria never happen to you, enter a bad truck. Do you understand? And the truck falls and kills other people. Then the other people's relative will now continue the chant, may Nigeria never happen to you. Bad politics, bad. Can you see the vicious circle? Are we understanding it? May Nigeria never happen to you. This road is so bad. There have been accidents going on this road and everything that the government has refused to fix this road. Meanwhile, actually, the government disbursed funds to one ABC construction company, which you happen to work for, but the ABC construction company chopped the money. But you are there saying, oh, my family member died on this road, though. May Nigeria never happen to you. Bad governance. Without even knowing that, actually, the government cannot work on their own. Do you understand? They actually employ us to do this work. Do you understand? Even when they are doing something bad, let's even take it down to election. Do you understand? For the government is less than 1%. Who do you think they use as mercenaries? It is me and you. Do you understand? May Nigeria never happen to you, but it is your brother or you yourself or Kini that are being employed to go and, to be thugs around the city. And you are saying government governance what? You've been appointed board of one of the government hospitals, do you understand? And they've given you money to buy, the necessary facilities. They've given you money to buy this, they've given you money to buy that. The world will not see that. And you've chopped the money. And then people are now dying in the hospital, maybe because there's no oxygen, there's no this, and may Nigeria not happen to you, may this not happen to you, not knowing that funds for that has been disturbed, but it is another individual that failed to do what they were supposed to do. And everything back to, in sum, what I'm trying to explain to you is that you need to understand your problem properly before you even know when and how to fix it. The major issue is that we've gotten the very beginning wrong, in the sense that we don't even understand what the problem is. We're so used to sticking to the old ways, just moving ahead like zombies, like headless chickens. Say something, we'll move on to the next. It's wrong. It doesn't make any sense. Pause and think. Think properly. Actually, I understand that it's the government that is in control of funds, but are they the ones that will fix the road themselves? Are they the ones that will do? No. In order for any working economy to work, do you understand? The government has to employ other organizations. They award contracts to people to do these things. So who was the contract awarded to? The contract was actually awarded to ABC. Did they pay ABC to do this? Oh, yes, they paid ABC to do this. Why didn't ABC do this? Do you understand? Oh yeah, I'm taking ABC to court. ABC, why didn't you do this? You were paid to do this. Why didn't you do it? Boom. And you don't go alone. You go with every other community member that is affected by that decision. And that's how you actually start to make progressive change. It is possible because we do it every time. It's small. And before you know, change will be made. This company in Abuja that was giving funds for educational system and they chopped the money, it took one individual whose child was affected by this going to court for them to now unravel the case. And they even found that the government is busy. They will not do their job and do your job for you. No, like I said, we're the fourth arm of government. We're plenty. So we can see these things. So it is in our place to hold these people accountable, and we're not doing it. And we want heaven. No, that's not how it works. So I hope that after this class, we understand and we know the need to do our part within the system. And I'm not daring anybody up to go to war or fight or take people to court. No, there are wiser and smarter ways to deal with these things. You cannot fight the government or fight anything alone. You're just gonna, waste your life doing that. And quite frankly, I'm not going to I'm not going to want any such for my child. But are there smart ways to go about this? Yes. Like I said, the power of collectiveness and togetherness. By the time you carry your estate people, are they going to knock down all of you? No. No true change comes without sacrifice. So it's just wishful thinking. No true change comes without sacrifice. No true change also comes without the power of communication, agreement, and then togetherness. How do you think NSAS moved as far as it did before it got shut down? Because for once, there was no, I'm the leader, this is the leader. There was an actual sense of togetherness, unity, before everything got politicalized. That's why it got to the stage that it got to. And for the first time since Nigeria became Nigeria, political members were actually genuinely scared, so scared that most political members took their family out of the country. That was how powerful that movement is. And that's the power of togetherness. That's the change that you can actually make if you are aware of your rights, if you are aware of the things that you're owed and you're not getting, as opposed to always complaining. So I hope that after this class, you understand, we understand our civic rights, even if it's by not blocking the oncoming traffic. It's just something. You've made life bearable for another Nigerian. It's as simple as that. And I hope that, this particular set of people, you don't have to go and humiliate yourself online, saying in Nigeria not happen to you. Not realizing and understanding that, in real sense, I'm trying to say that I'm the bad luck happening to other people, causing further bad luck. Simple as that. If there are any questions, we're ready to take them now.
Yeah, thank you so much for a very interactive and very engaging class. So students, it's time for questions. We are going to be taking these questions in this order. If you raise your hand, I'll be calling your name one after another. You ask your question. Alongside, we check in the chat box. If there are other questions, then we take them as well. So let's start from Akerele Peter. Your hand is up. Can you ask your question? Unmute and ask your questions, please.
Thank you very much, facilitator, for the lecture. It's very insightful and very engaging. Am I clear? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I can hear you.
So my question would be, you mentioned that the problem is also the fourth arm of government, which is the people. I would say, I don't know if this is like a question or like
not problem, or like I said, we do have a governance issue, but I'm saying the solution to that is in the fourth arm of government. Then the solution to that is in the fourth arm of government, but the problem is that the solution does not realize that it is the solution. That is where the problem is. Do you understand?
Yeah, I think it's more of the solution will come when we use a trickle down effect. And what do I mean by this? If we can hold the people at the top accountable first, the people at the bottom will act accordingly. And if not, they will be able to be punished accordingly too by the law. In a situation where, is that?
No, go on.
Yeah, in a situation where a senator is punished accordingly for corruption, a civil servant will think twice before going into the same crime. In a situation where a senator or even a judge somewhere in the court pass a corrupt judgment and gets punished accordingly by the law, a student in class trying to write an exam will think twice before engaging in examination malpractice. So I think the solution will come when we are able to hold a leader accountable, the followers will act accordingly. Thank you. This is what I just want to say.
Yeah. So yeah, whether we start from the bottom or the top, those are just strategic approaches. The main ingredient there is them being held accountable. Do you understand? The judiciary will not hold them accountable except you ask the judiciary to hold them accountable. So again, the problem is, are we asking the judiciary to hold them accountable? Do you understand? Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Actually doing the work, not talking about doing the work.
Thank you, ma'am. Judith Bagidi, can you ask your question? I've asked you to unmute and ask your question.
Okay, thank you for that. My question really is about good governance. Do you really think Nigeria can be defined within the context of good governance? Because to me, good governance comes to light when the process and the institutions are delivering results or public goods that actually meet the needs of the people, which I think currently in Nigeria, the dividends of democracy actually remains far-fetched. That's one. And then you also made reference to places like the UK enjoying tax systems, enjoying healthcare and schools and all because of the taxing is good there. I think this would be linked to the first person's question where he talked about accountability. How can the Nigerian government actually encourage citizens to support a progressive tax system when there's a widespread of lack of transparency and accountability in the current tax revenue utilization? Unlike the other countries where you see things resulting to what your money is going into, but here you're actually not seeing it. So how can we actually do all that? Thank you.
Okay. So quickly, yeah. How many of us have watched this popular series, Vikings? I'm sure a lot of us have seen, like, Vikings and all of that, stuff like that. Do you realize that not only the British, but like the Scandinavian side of, like, a large part of the EU were Vikings? It means that these people used to be like savages and all. Do you understand? But what happened? The people evolved, progress. So you've asked, okay, if we start, not even if we start, we already have this in place. Do you understand? We're just not making good use of it as much as we should. It still goes back to the same thing we talked about, transparency. First off, you have these parastatals and organizations that, again, should actually be coming every quarter to say that this is how much tax we've collected, and this is what the tax would either go to maintain, or this is the infrastructure the money from this tax will do. They are not doing that. Why? Again, because the fourth arm of government is not working. We're not holding them accountable. What I'm trying to say is that every nation, every country had their humble beginnings. Look at Rwanda now, for example. Everybody is using Rwanda now as a model, African model country. Do you understand? Everybody wants to go to Rwanda now. Things are working really well. Their healthcare system is not as porous and as bad as before. The road network is, good. They are going into tech. The economy is booming, and investors and investments are coming in. They're making alliances. They're making, and every Nigerian is just saying that Rwanda, forgetting that they used to be worse than us. Do you know how they got there? It took. I don't wish that for Nigerians, but when people got so stubborn, do you understand? And they did not understand that the role that they play in governance, people got so hungry that they hid under genocide. Basically, I think like an entire community was wiped off before it took people realizing that, we need to get our acts together and move. It's not, again, nothing would work except you not only want it to work, but do the things that will make it work. Everybody had their humble beginnings. The UK had its up till now. So by the way, do you think that there are no tax fraud or all these big countries, you need to go into journalism to realize that they are the greatest scammers of all. But because they have the primary infrastructure in place, and they have the primary structure in place, even when they are committing their white collar crime, do you understand? When they are siphoning funds, nobody really notices. Yeah. Or when something happens, they go under the heading of institutional crumble, when really one person has carried money and has run away. Corruption is so bad in other places. In fact, corruption was so bad in China that they had to stipulate a law that, in fact, going forward, anybody that commits so crime will be beheaded, like whether you're a big official or not. Do you understand? That's how bad things got in China. China, one of the, in fact, I said that in very soon, China is going to be the new America. Things were so bad that they started hanging people for little offenses. And look how their economy has boomed. What I'm trying to say is that all of these countries that we look up to, they either started from somewhere and literally, because at some point their life depended on it, they literally had to fight for it. Or they are now in such a stable situation now that they can afford to continue stealing without anybody noticing because things are working anyways. So it goes back. It's still the principle of transparency and accountability. We have these concepts, we have these structures, we have these laws. We're just not making use of it. You know, you're paying tax. It's like you're paying salary to your staff and your staff is not delivering. You sack the staff or you hold them accountable, right? You're paying tax. The minute you start paying tax, you have the right, maybe you form an organization, like labor union, for example. Make it a topic within your labor union that, we've been transport system, we've been paying tax, and yet, this tax is not what is supposed to cover this federal road, and it's not. Please, can we see what people are using our money for? By the time you ask, can we see 1, 2, 3 times? They'll be shocked. No, nobody has ever asked us, can we see? Why the sudden ask? Small changes will start to happen, but we don't pay, and even some people that pay don't ask. Again, how do you leave meat for an hungry man? You put meat in front of an hungry man and you walk away. Really, what do you expect will happen? It's as simple as that. These things are not far-fetched. They are not so grand or so big that we cannot possibly think of the solution. No. It takes us actually really doing. They look so impossible, they look so grand, but really they are not. Within this cohort, I know how many times, people have seen their little political leaders here, and then they decide to form a group, do you understand? And they move for something, and before you know it, small things, even if it's transformer, they are now like, there's now light in a certain community, small changes like that. For example, you pay tax, that's really good, that's your sweat, so you need to know what they're using the money for. So you need to ask questions. Are we asking questions? Is the question. It's as simple as that.
Thank you, ma'am. Sima Giwa, I've asked you to unmute and ask your question.
All right, thank you very much. This class is actually interesting. I think I will agree quite all right with a speaker in some aspect before I render my question. And before then, I think last election, I was privileged to be sent to monitor election by Center for Democracy Development. Yes. So when I went to the polling unit, I discovered that the people in agreement, because they were affected by bandits, so they agreed that they're going to vote for a particular candidate. Since the candidate vying for senatorial seat, because that was their concern, was a sitting governor and he was looking for a senator, they say, okay, since you are a governor and you allow bandits to kill us, we, the people, are not going to vote for you. And that decision stands. Everybody that comes to that polling unit has already been told that, well, since we have suffered under this particular candidate, there is no need of him sending him to the National Assembly, and therefore they decided to vote him out, and that is how he could not be able to win at the senatorial seat. So I think if we use the bottom approach, to this election issue, all the problem of accountability, recalling somebody may not actually come in, because when we, from the beginning, we begin to bring somebody that is credible, not this money politics we're doing, because most of the politics they're doing is the highest bidder that we do give our vote to. They give you rise because yes. So at the end of the day, we begin to complain. All this problem boils down to us. If we, as the speaker have said, the fourth arms of government can agree. This problem, we don't have problem in Nigeria. By the time we begin to put the right people there, you see the right things to follow. It's because of our greediness. Say, no, this one is my uncle, and let's give him. After all, it's not even credible. He doesn't even have the qualification. He doesn't even have this anything. But it's because he has money, let's vote for him. But if the fourth organs of the government, as the speaker have said, or the people agreed that this is what we want, we will achieve it, Nigeria will be changed. Even people that believe that Nigeria will not be changed, it will be changed. So I believe that if we move away from this money politics and begin to vote for credibility, we're going to get it. So the development of Nigeria lies in the hands of Nigeria, not the hands of politicians. They're just few now. How many percentage are they? We're the one that send them there. So we can be able to change. If you are not performing, we'll remove you. Somebody is just giving us a new national anthem. I've been thinking of making a move to recall my House of Rep, because that is not what he promised us. That is not what we want him to do. So if the people make up their mind to change, they can change, and Nigeria can change. And then finally, that's just my contribution. Then my question: during the course of presentation, the speaker was talking about system. And it's like the speaker exclude the people from the system. But I think that the component of the system is not just the rules and the things that govern it. It is the people, because they're the one who make up the system. If at all, with the example she has given pertaining to a job, if at all the boss who is part of the system and the workers who is part of the system want the system to work, the system will work, because the system, it is we, not only the structure. So if we at all want it to work, it will work, not the structure and maybe the law, because the law are made by us. When we decide to follow the traffic law, follow everything will work. So I think the speaker maybe if he escape, or that's the way it is, she can maybe put more light for me when it comes to the issue of the system, the company of the system, what is made out of the system, because I think the people should be involved. Thank you very much.
Yes, you've basically summarized my class for me. He's completely right. And to the person at Tobatele that asks, what are smart ways to use in getting them accountable for what they did? I'm curious if you've tried holding a politician accountable so far, if you excel as practical ways. Like I said, the practical way, I've already discussed it. Practical, again, you need to be, nobody wants, it's honorable to die for your country, but I don't think that that's the plan of anyone. So like I said earlier, smart ways, you don't go as a one-man mopole and, go and shout. No. Steps to these things. First of all, you ask questions. Do you understand? Once you ask questions, if you don't get them answered, or if you got answer, but you did not get the answer that you're looking for, like I said, whatever problem you're facing, you're not the only one facing it. Get like-minded people. Start with your community. So I'm from Kogi State. Do you understand? And there was a period where, because of the layout of my hometown, when this kidnapping and killings of people in farms started, because of like the structure of the road and the layout of the road, it enabled a lot of people hiding, hiding, like it created like a hiding spot for a lot of these people. I don't even stay in my hometown. I don't stay in Kogi. But I cannot be preaching this to a class and, not doing something back home. It was simple. Everybody in the community saw the problem, knew the problem, just didn't know how to start. So we came up as a people, do you understand? Before going anywhere, we made sure, checked who are the people responsible for this? How can we do this? Do you understand? As a people, we went to our honorable that, honorable, this is your mother's house. Do you understand? This is your mother with us too. Emotional intelligence is also key. Everything is not war. Everything is not fight. Do you understand? We are your people. These are faces that you know. Do you understand? Will you be happy if something happens to anybody here? This is what is plaguing us. So even if it's as small as, even if it's as little as, let's clear this bush. Let's fill in these potholes. And thankfully, he agreed with us and he said, oh, it's true. Oh, we need to do this. This is the place I'm from. Even if I'm now accountable and I go to Abuja a lot, I still have my family here. I still have Baba this, Yalagbaja, peacefully, quietly. We did not say, oh, you promised us this, or we did not start like that. If the case then furthers and there's a need for that, yes. But we did not start by that, look at the problem we're facing. Don't you think if we do this, if you do that, it will be better, and it will even help your political campaign, because everybody will see that even though we held you accountable, that's not the propaganda that we're going to be preaching, because we all want the same thing, right? Do this thing, and it even helps your portfolio as well. Life is all about negotiation and give and take, smart critical thinking. Like I said, you don't have to go to war, you don't have to lose your life unnecessarily, you don't have to create enemies for yourself unnecessarily. No, always try the nice diplomatic way before. Do you understand? Before you bring gun or cutlass, anyway, you have to ask that, have I tried to speak to these people and reason to their their common sense? And peradventure they don't have common sense, because a lot of our leaders actually don't have common sense. Peradventure they don't have common sense, at least they will have emotional sense or emotional intelligence. And if they don't have emotional intelligence, at least they have one cousin here, they have their mother here, you find something to tie them back to their roots. Bring them in, make them remember that, you are one of us and we are one of you. And please do this thing for us so that, we'll be happy with you. We'll do this for you in return. Finish. Life, everything in life is give and take, and everything in life is negotiation. Even if at that point in time, our request was done. We don't know if government gave him 1 billion, and it was only 500 million he used for the road. We don't care. Most important thing is that even if he had taken some part of the funds, most important thing is that he had done what he was supposed to do. And at that point, nobody will question him again that, but is this amount? Small change, like somebody said. And I'm telling you, trust me, when it comes to politics and governance, you cannot start from the head. Not because it is a crime or it is wrong to start from the head, but you simply do not have the power, the resources, the access. Where do you want to start from? Start with the head, Kini. Who are you? Who am I? 100 of us, who are we? You want to start from the beginning? No. People like that are used to having whatever, it takes something coming close to home to make them change. Again, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, social networking. It goes beyond sticking to, it's my right. No. Sit down, farabale. Don't be, when, for example, any small thing that happened, they will say, is the government will do something. And headless chicken, they will say, it's because he's Igbo, it's because he's Hausa. At what point, when are you going to grow? When are you going to see and understand that these are just political tools used to distract you? Let me share one beautiful passage. I think I'm a Christian. I grew up in a Muslim home, so I do understand that some of these principles are the same. Somewhere in Deuteronomy, I can't remember where, those people that were building the tower, do you understand, to reach heaven, to go and meet God. Do you know, in that passage, it was simply said that even God realized that, there is power in communication and togetherness. It said it expressly there in the Bible. Do you understand? There is nothing man cannot achieve when they come together. In order for this not to work, do you understand? I need to put confusion in their midst. Do you understand? And what did he do? He broke ground for communication. Everybody suddenly had different languages, and they did not understand what they were doing anymore. Do you understand? They could not communicate effectively, and that project scattered. It was not a miraculous intervention. God did not use thunder to strike the building down. He did not say everybody fall and die. No. What he did do? He seized communication. By how? How did he do it? Sowing confusion in their midst. Your politicians, they keep doing this to you every time. Thank you very much. Genesis 11:4. Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches the heaven, so that we may make a name for ourselves and not be scattered over the faces of the whole earth. I wish you put the remaining one there, Sha. But yeah, Communication, power of togetherness. And that's how that project died. You understand? The government sees that finally these people, they are realizing that, oh my God, there's power in togetherness. So this EndSARS is moving. Oh, let us quickly sow a seed of confusion. Something happens, somebody says something stupid, and all of a sudden Igbo is fighting Yoruba, Yoruba is fighting Hausa. Distracted you from the main problem, right? And then they continue what they were doing. Please.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
It's that simple. Simple as that. Critical thinking.
Thank you, ma'am. We have 2 questions in the chat box, but we'll take the question from Mr. Ibrahim before we take those 2 from the chat box. Mr. Ibrahim, I've asked you to unmute and ask your question. Ibrahim,
okay, thank you, sir. Good evening once again.
Good evening.
Madam, you see, things are happening now in Nigeria. I don't know whether it is a part of independence of the judiciary. You see, a situation where a judge can sit in America or Mexico and deliver judgment here in Nigeria through Zoom. I don't know whether this is allowed because I never hear anything like this in America. A judge sit here in Nigeria and deliver judgment in America. I don't know whether it is part of the independence of the judiciary or it is a progress in our judiciary. Number 1. Number 2, madam, in America you will see or you'll hear that a president is taken to a magistrate court. This common magistrate court, not a high court or Supreme Court. And he must go to that court and answer what he was called for. But in Nigeria here, we see even a senator or a member of House of Representatives will be called, even a state high court, but he will not answer the call. I mean, he will not comply with what he was called for. He just ignore the invitation. I want you to explain this please to me. Thank you very much, madam.
So briefly. So with the jurisdictional factor, there are different, that could be used for good, that could be used for bad. But let's forget that we are a civilization that is advancing. The court is moving digital. That is not to say that you should not be within your jurisdictional position. But sometimes, these judges have lives, and in a situation where they are short of staff, do you understand? And because judges have lives, maybe it's, within this period they were supposed to take leave or something, they can, because digitalization is a tool that we need to employ to make our lives better. That tool as a factor does not necessarily undermine justice. It's still the same judgment and justice that will be procured. Now, whether or not, so artificial intelligence is a new thing, do you understand? Our constitution may not necessarily be in a position to fully address that yet, but it's the same with every other country. It's not just a Nigeria thing. That's why we have, for example, for the EU and the UK, the GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation. We do have one in Nigeria, to the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation. So is that particular legislation based, as long as it does not contradict whatever the Constitution says, that then regulates that. But jurisdictionally speaking, and in the way things work, that would not necessarily mean that, in fact, if anything, it even provides for better access to justice. Do you understand? Because things will move faster, things will move smoothly. So, of course, we do welcome technology and digitalization within the judiciary system. It makes for easy, it even makes things more transparent. Do you understand? Secondly, you talked about, the power of, again, accountability, the power of being, tried in court and all of that. Let's remember that Donald Trump had stepped out of office in order for that to happen. You cannot sue a sitting president or a sitting governor, because you will not be suing them as a man, but you'll be suing the office, which, imagine the president or do you know what it means to sue a president? Is not the man that is being sued. It is you, me, it's all of us, like all of us in the country. It means that all of us have a court case. That's what it means. Because you are not suing the individual, you're suing the body. And that is why immunity covers for that too. So that is why, if it is urgent and important that this particular individual needs to be tried, that's why there's what's this word? Impeachment. That's why there's a procedure for impeachment. That individual has to be relieved from office first before that happens. And in the case of Donald Trump, that's what happened. I mean, we have a lot of governors that have been tried out. Ibori is a popular case. Do you understand? He had to leave the office before he was tried. For example, like our former CBN governor, do you understand? He had some leverage and some level of immunity as well, but he had to leave the seat before he was being sued. I mean, the case is being displayed for every Nigerian to see, because in that situation, otherwise you'll be suing the whole entire institution. You'll be suing the CBN as its capacity as an institution and not the man heading CBN. Do you understand? So that's why there's a need to disassociate an individual from an organization, because as we all know, individuals have a separate personality. They have a separate identity from any organizational, whether private or public organization. So that's why there's always a need to separate. So obviously, when somebody has been relieved of their role, is the next. In fact, that's another way to hold them accountable. When they know that because they will not sit in office forever. Pata, they do 8 years. After the 8 years, you come and meet us here, you'll be answerable to the law. Full stop. That's another way of also holding these people accountable. Look at what Donald Trump did now. They didn't even most of the things that he was even sued for were also crimes that were even committed in the past as well, and crimes that were committed in office. The next president going in will be, even if he wants to do something similar, he will be more prudent. Do you understand? So another means and measure for accountability.
Thank you. Thank you, madam.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Well, we have 2 questions in the chat box. The question is from Abdurrahim Atobatele. There are 2 questions. Number 1, what are the smart ways to use in getting them accountable for what they did?
Oh yeah, I've answered
That is
that
the
one.
first question.
The power of togetherness and smart thinking. That was when we used the Babylon phrase, the Babylon experience, Genesis and all. So we've answered that. I think the next question is before now, judiciary was believed to be the last hope of common man, but now a lot of Nigerians are doubting that. Many have the feelings that it is last hope for the highest bidder. There's no internal unity even amongst the judges. You see one court gives this injunction, another one giving another one on one case. So why is it so? For example, the case of Kano Emirates, it's really confusing. This leads to ignoring certain injunctions. I would like you to share more. So the case of the Kano one, it was mostly political propaganda, as we know. I remember the first 40 minutes of this class, we did discuss that even if we have all of those good governance traits available, and we have a functioning good governance, when there's a threat to the independence of the judiciary, it limits them being able to work. So we did explain that the reason why the judiciary may be seen not to be as functioning as it should be seen is because of the bottleneck approach, in the sense that these people that you expect them to judge against are the people that are appointing them, sacking them, paying their salary. What? So there's not much you can get from that. So the issue would then be, maybe a constitutional reform, and not because I would say, by the way, even the American system, they operate on, because of the principle of, we've said it, separation of power and then checks and balances. You cannot actually you cannot also take all of these things away from these people. Do you understand? Other countries practice it. We just use ours as a loophole because our constitution says that, the president is going to recommend the Chief Justice of Nigeria based on recommendation of National Judicial Council. That's what the law says, which is right. But are these things being followed? No. And because we don't know that that's what the law says, we just allow it to happen and we don't complain, in summary. So, for example, that's the popular saying, you get what you allow now. That's it in summary.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. I don't think there's any other question. I can't see any hand up or any other question in the chat box. So I assume that the students have exhausted their question. Thank you so much, ma'am, for a very wonderful lecture. Thank you, everyone, the college team. Thank you, students. We sincerely apologize that the class started late because of some unforeseen circumstances. Our classes continue tomorrow. Tomorrow class is the normal time. Be in class on time. I hope that in today's class, everybody has written their names and their political parties. So I will ask us to unmute and thank our facilitator as we try to shut down now. So can we unmute and thank our facilitator? I've asked everybody to unmute.
Thank you very much, Ma.
Thank you, Ma.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Our
Thank
class
you very much.
continues.
Bye.
Have a good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Ma. Good night.
Good night.